Hello everyone, I'm Ty, and I'm doing the profession video for the Guardian of Guild Wars 2. The Guardian is a tanky DPS class, mainly because there are no tanks in the game. You can attempt to tank, and you can take a lot of damage, but there is no real tanking. So, you can take a lot of punishment, and you can do a lot of punishment, but there are no tanking classes in Guild Wars 2. Now, the first thing about them you'll notice is that they have these 3 auras bound to F1, F2, and F3. They all grant a passive virtue that's always on, and then you can activate them to give yourself the virtue on command. The first one adds a burning effect to each of your 5th attacks, or you can activate it to give it to yourself immediately and all nearby party members. The second constantly regenerates your health, activate to give you health all the time. And the third one gives you this fancy blue shield, which blocks the next attack. And you can activate it to give the blocking to all nearby party members and yourself immediately. Now first I'm going to be starting off with the sword and the shield. All the weapons give you your skills in this game. The main hand weapon gives you your first 3, so starting with the sword, I'll show the shield later. Now the first ability for the sword, as for all weapons, is this auto attack ability. It essentially works like an auto attack, but it also has bonus effects, and it does technically count as a skill. Your first attack you hit them, the second attack you hit them again, and the third attack does this AoE, where you stab all these swords in front of you. Well, we screwed that event up. Now, the second ability, Flashing Blade, as you can see, you teleport to your opponent and you give them the blindness debuff. Blindness causes them to miss their next attack, without question. There are no auto attacks, so they will miss their next skill. Essentially, when you're auto-attacking, you are just automatically using the one skill over and over, and it combos. Third is Zealous Defense, where you block ranged attacks while throwing ranged attacks of your own. This one's a little interesting. Pick your target and slash like crazy, and you can hit them from far away. If they were throwing ranged attacks at you, you would be blocking them at the time. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything to show you an example of this. It has semi-decent range and does really good damage. And as you'll notice, I'm doing superb damage even though I'm using a one-handed sword and a shield. Now on to the next weapon I want to show you. I believe the mace will do. Now the mace is a lot more tank oriented than the sword was. The sword does very good damage, but the mace is more interested in tank abilities. Starting off with just the one ability, you strike twice, but then on your third attack you slam the ground to place a seal onto the ground, an aura. Or it causes the aura, that blue light you see. And you and all party members and the light get a small amount of healing every time you do that. So, right off the bat, your one attack is both healing and doing a ton of damage. The health is the red circle in the middle. Next is Symbol of Faith, where you slam the ground to cause an actual aura. This aura provides a health bonus for as long as you're standing in it. A health regen bonus, actually. So you heal as you're standing in it. So both 1 and 2 make wonderful healing abilities. And then you have your 3, which you saw right there. The 3 ability is Protector Strike, which is essentially a counter. You charge up and you protect yourself. And if you get attacked in the meantime, you do a counter attack. Here you are. But if you are not attacked in the meantime, you grant protection to you and all surrounding allies, which reduces all damage you and allies take by 33%. So this is a wonderful ability to be using at all times because you're either doing superb damage or you're protecting all of your allies while you're doing it, making the Mace a very good tanking weapon as well as a very good supporting weapon because you're still providing all these support effects even though you're not actually, tanking the opponent. I'm just going to throw the sword back on and show you the shield abilities now. Now, the shield being in the offhand gives you your 4 and 5 abilities, where your main hand weapon gives you your 1, 2, 3 abilities. The shield abilities are always the same, despite what you have in your main hand. The first shield ability, the 4, is this shield bash you see, where I swing my shield and send out a ton of blue light in front of me. It actually has some surprising range to it, and I do believe it's an AoE. So you can use it to pull opponents from far away, or hit fleeing opponents. Also grants you protection in the meantime. And your 5th ability is that. You create a big shield around you that blasts away all enemies near you and absorbs projectiles that are flung at you in the meantime. So you throw all enemies away from you, and if they're using ranged attacks, they just get absorbed and made useless by the shield. Next, I will show you the focus, as well as the scepter. The scepter changes the 1, 2, 3 abilities, and the focus changes the 4 and 5. You can wield any combination of weapons you want, but this is how it works. Now, the Scepter's auto attack ability is this orb you see. Rather good damage, actually. Especially for just an auto attack. Second is Smite, where you target an area, or target an enemy in an area, and as long as he's in that circle you see, he's getting just torn apart by the smite. Wielding the Scepter does indeed make you more of a mage instead of a tank. And Guardians can wield staves, so they have quite the assortment of weapons at their disposal, and the assortment of abilities. Now, third is the Immobilize. This works incredibly well with Smite because you can create the Smite and then immobilize the enemy within the Smite, so they get hit more by the Smite before it charges out. You immobilize with these chains, and blast away, or get knocked off a cliff. Either one works. Now this is Ray of Judgment. Here's an interesting one. It damages the opponent and makes them blind for 5 seconds, but it also removes 1 debuff from allies caught in the ray, as well as granting them healing. So you throw the ray at an opponent, it damages and blinds them, and if an ally were in the way, they would be losing 1 debuff as well as getting some healing. There aren't any outright heals, that you can cast on other people from that I'm aware of, so this is kind of the best you get. The focus makes you a bit of a healer. Now you have this ability. It is a shield that absorbs damage, just completely blocks attacks and makes them useless, and it absorbs 3 attacks before it's done. If 3 attacks are not absorbed, then the shield will explode to deal damage. So you can use this while you're being attacked to protect yourself, or you can use this while you're not being attacked to deal damage. Next is the Torch, which changes the 4 and 5 abilities because it is an offhand. First ability is Cleansing Flames. You breathe fire onto the opponent. Any allies caught in the flames actually have debuffs removed from them. All of these abilities really focus around you being in the middle of the fight or standing just outside of a fight, so you can hit all of your allies who are grouped up together. Very entertaining. Fifth ability, Zealot's Flame. You set yourself on fire, and that damages nearby foes for 10 seconds. But the interesting thing is, you can then take the flame off of yourself to toss it onto an opponent to deal damage. I don't show it well right here, but it's a very short cooldown, thankfully. So you set yourself on fire, dealing damage over time, and then you throw the fire at an opponent before the fire is gone out. So you deal damage over a duration, and then you can launch the fire to deal a ton of damage up front. Next is the Warhammer, which I actually like a lot. I'm not a fan of maces, but this mace is very cool. And being a two-handed weapon, it changes your entire skill set, 1 through 5. The auto attack itself places the aura on the ground that grants protection. So while you're doing a ton of damage, you're also reducing the damage your allies take in the small area that you hit. Your second ability is just flat damage. You hit the 2, you smash the ground in an AoE, do good damage. The two-handed mace, is very AoE oriented. And very support-oriented as well, despite being a two-handed weapon that you would normally associate with large damage. The third ability is a ranged immobilize of all things. You smash the ground, sending out chains in a line, immobilizing all enemies caught by the chains. It's very AoE-centric, but it's also very position-centric as a weapon. You can very easily control where your opponents are. You can control it even more thanks to the fourth skill, Banish, or as I like to call it, the Banhammer. Charge it up, send them flying, and then immobilize them while they're far away. It is very, very easy to send enemies flying off cliffs with Banish, and that is just the best thing ever. Now the fifth ability is Ring of Warding. You create a ring, and things that are enemies inside the ring cannot get out. Enemies outside the ring cannot get in. So let's say you want to trap one enemy inside the ring while a bunch of enemies are trying to break down the wall. You can focus down the one enemy trapped inside while ignoring enemies trapped outside, like I'm going to ignore this boar. Toss out the immobilize. Set up the ring. And it's going to charge at me and get stopped because it cannot get in the ring. Effectively stopping that stun for 2 seconds. Now, I thought that placing the ring and then banishing would trap the enemy inside the ring and pounce them off the wall, but it does actually toss them outside of the ring. So, you can use the ring, banish someone outside of it, to give yourself some breathing room. Say it's a difficult enemy that is just kicking your butt, you can ring, banish it out, to give yourself some extra time. Next, I will show you the staff, which essentially makes you a mage. A heavily armored, badass mage. What I found interesting about the staff's auto attack, the one ability, is that it doesn't change when you hit opponents. It is the same ability, and you spam it over and over. It's this AoE wave out in front of you. And you just keep blasting them. I suppose if you had nothing better to do and you were being swarmed by 10 things, that would almost save your life. The second ability is this orb. You can fire it at an enemy to do damage, or you can detonate it prematurely to heal all allies that are caught within the blast. Essentially making you a skill shot healer. I wouldn't really use it as a dedicated healing ability because I'm going to guess you're never going to land that shot when you really need to. The third ability is this targeted AoE. It deals damage to foes who are in it, but if you were to step inside it, it grants you swiftness and increased movement speed. So let's say something's gone wrong and your party is losing, you can leg it and give swiftness to your entire team so they can get away from a dangerous situation. Or alternatively, if you have a teammate who's kiting a boss, you can place the swiftness in front of them to make them run faster while, say, other teammates cripple the boss. So the teammate is leading the boss around the room, gaining speed, while the boss is crippled and lagging behind, unable to do anything. The fourth ability is this line of warding. Enemies cannot get across it. You just drop a line and say, you cannot cross this. This also opens up some interesting tactics with, kiting enemies around, because this game is very centric around not getting hit. You take a lot of damage from a lot of things, and getting hit too many times is a death sentence. So it's interesting that they give you this whole batch of abilities, one that speeds people up and one that slows people down. So you can speed up a teammate, if the boss is about to catch up to them, you can ward to block their path. can also do this with a group of enemies. Say, get one enemy on one side of the wall and the rest blocked on the other side of the wall. You can kill the one enemy easily and then deal with the rest after the wall's faded. The fifth ability is Martyr. This is a very interesting one. You take all debuffs from all your allies around you. This is stuns, this is blinds, this is dazes, this is cripples, this is everything. All debuffs go on to you. To compensate for this, you get every buff in the game at once. A very strong buff at that. So essentially, you risk killing yourself by taking in a whole group's worth of debuffs, but you become God mode for the duration. Alternatively, you can just use Martyr normally and just get all the buffs for yourself. We're looking at protection, swiftness, health regen, up the crit, everything. A very powerful ability that almost makes up for how lame the staff is in general. And I don't want to fight you right now, so goodbye.